Hey everybody, welcome back to another KAIROS 101 tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about a couple different things here. One is going to be regarding PTZ's control with our UE150s here at the LiveX studio, and how we can control our Tecnopoint system, which is our dolly and totem system that has a PTZ mounted to it, and how we can program macros to control all those things. First, just to cover the basics on how to use the PTZ control. If we look over here, we can see that on certain scenes, we can control certain specific movements using the joystick, which is up here. One of them is PTZ, and if you remember from a previous video on inputs, input 1 has this additional metadata under the more section where, PTZ trigger, it's already been configured in that way. It recognizes that it's a UE150 and that it's camera 1 with that certain IP address. So that looks like this. On the input section, you can see there's this little PTZ camera icon, and then that becomes an optional thing on the control surface where I can go to PTZ camera 1, and then I can use the joystick to manipulate camera 1, just like I would with our RP120. Now, I don't have as fine control as our RP120, but it does get me somewhere. I can also make presets using the KAIROS creator software for that particular camera outside of the RP120, and it's actually quite easy. I have this series of presets. I can just press right click and recall preset. That's going to load that in there. I made this one earlier today. I can just double click or right click and press recall preset. That's going to automatically just put the camera in that position that I already saved before, which is pretty slick. Then I can also create a macro that goes to that position. I created this macro earlier, which is going to just go to preset number 1. That looks something like this, where I go to macros, control, panel, profile 4, which is the profile I'm on, PTZ1 recall 1. So this is what that text looks like. Call environment input group input 1, PTZ trigger, recall preset 0, meaning recall for non-computer people. That's recall preset number 1. So I can always duplicate this and have it recall presets right from the board rather than having to go into that specific menu. So if I want to copy and paste and then rename or edit the first, so I can do actually 1, which will recall the next preset, save, and rename F2, recall 2. And then that shows up on the console here, so I can recall 1, and then the next button over I can recall 2, and that'll go right to recall preset number 2. Super, super handy if I'm in a pinch and I need to make a quick move on a camera right from the control surface. Really, really slick indeed. So really easy to set all that up, as long as those presets are already made before I go into a live show. Now, what about the Tecnopoint? Well, the Tecnopoint's a little bit different in that it is actually, a dolly and on a slider. Let me see if I can call up camera 3 here, just to show you guys what that looks like. There it is on camera number 3, just so I can show you what's going on there. There's camera 3 in preview. The Tecnopoint software, which you might be able to see on the screen now, this allows us to create moves on the, I'm not going to go into this too in depth, but this is the software that we use to create keyframes that allow us to create something like dolly moves or jib type shots or push-ins and push-outs using a 10-foot track, which is pretty sweet. And we also have 3 feet total, 1 meter of vertical movement. So we can create some really nice sweeping shots and zoom ins and zoom outs using sort of like a parallax type of effect with the track that we have in the studio, as you can see in preview right now. So I'm going to create, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create TCP IP triggers that communicate from the KAIROS creator computer, which is at one address, to the Tecnopoint computer, which is at a different address, and cut, which means go back to 0 on cell A1, which is this one right here, this group of images, or actually I should say this image sequence and this preset. And then I'm going to create a start trigger, which is going to start the move. And I'm going to create a stop trigger. So it's 3 macros built in so I can reset the move, start it, and stop it. Tecnopoint hosts a specific, let me see if I can find it in here, group. It's called a TCP server. So I can create a TCP server so that it can receive commands from external softwares like KAIROS. And it gives you a nice little example here. So the syntax would be command, which is start, cut, or stop, start A1. So going back over to creator software, I'm going to go to triggers. So to start from scratch, Tecnopoint, right click, new IP command. I'm going to call it cut A1, press OK, edit the trigger. So I have to go to the specific port. So that's there, and then the IP address. And then the command simply is cut A1. Save. And OK. And then I can duplicate this, copy, paste. So I don't have to do all that configuration again. So I'll do that 3 times, and then I'm going to just edit the syntax here, so, or the command, I should say. So start, and then I'm going to rename it cut start A1. So cut start, and then I have to rename this one stop. So cool, I have cut A1. These are just triggers, these aren't macros, right? So the next step is gonna be actually to make a macro that runs this. I can do that, I can test these out before I start that, just to make sure that they work independently. So I can right click, press send, and then it looks like, yeah. And so as you can see in program, the dolly is currently moving, as you can see in camera 3. It's moving to its start position, and then it's going to give me the magic bullseye to let me know that it's actually in place and ready to start the move. So it's going to move around, recalibrate itself to get aligned to execute the move. And then once I get the all clear, once it settles down, I think it's really fine-tuning itself. I might have to send that trigger again. Sometimes it's a little hairy. Send it again. You can do it. Yeah, there we go. So now it's on the bullseye. So it's ready to go. And then I'm going to press start. I'm going to see if that works. And now it's running. It's really subtle. Yeah, cool. So we're seeing some movement here, so that means it's work. Let's see if the stop command works as well. Stop, and I can see on the screen, yep, it stopped. So great, now those are all good to go. I confirm that those are working as independent triggers. Now I can go back to my macros setup, go back to profile 4, create a new macro, call it cut A1. It's a little bit redundant, but here we go. So what I'm gonna do is record this macro independently, and then I'm gonna copy and paste for the start and stop ones, and then all those will appear on my macro page on the control surface. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click and start recording. It's gonna record this macro, so the next click I do, so trigger, Tecnopoint, cut A1, send, and then I can go back to macros, profile 4, and then stop record. Cool. So that should have, if I've done this right, yeah. So it's created this command, call triggers.tecnopoint.cut A1 send. So all it's doing is just sending, this macro is just built to send that trigger command. What I can do is copy that, paste it again, and then edit some of the line of code here. So cut A1, instead of it being cut A1, I want it to actually recall start A1, which is the next the next line, command line, or the next trigger I made. I'm just gonna rename it again. It seems kind of redundant, but it will make sense because I have to map. I don't necessarily have triggers available for me to use on the control surface, so I have to map them to a macro first in order to use them on the control surface. In any instance, I am gonna go ahead and make this macro called start. This is a lot of the prep that we're also doing just to make sure that, you know, this is all stuff that just takes time and you just have to get down before you go into a show. But once it's there, it works. So stop A1, and it's really easy. I don't have to re-record. At least I'm just changing one little phrase of code in order to make this adjustment. So I'm saving that. I'm going to rename it again. Call it stop, STOP A1. Cool. So now if I look back at the surface, now I have cut, start, stop A1, which is the Tecnopoint trigger. Amazing. Now I can just, from the macro section on the control surface, I now have the ability to both run triggers for my cameras to reposition them like I'm doing on camera 1 right now. So I can just go from different point to point on an instant just with a few clicks of a button rather than just using the joystick. And then I can also run my Tecnopoint. I can run the Tecnopoint system. Nah, it's already actually on the bullseye, so it's done. So I'm gonna start it. So check that out. Starting it, it's rolling, it's going, I think. Yeah, there it goes. It's going really slowly. But if I want to do a more elaborate move at the start of a show, that's really the trick, because now I can just reset my ones right for the top of the show rather than just having to go to another software. I can do this all from the comfort of the control surface, just right what's in front of me. And then once I'm ready to stop the move, stop the move. And when I want to reset it, push the cut. Brilliant, right? It just takes a little bit of time to get that set up, but once it's set up for you, those are all recallable. And as long as all the softwares are working, those things will work in an instant, which is fantastic. I really hope you loved this KAIROS 101 tutorial about how to use your PTZ cameras with macros and along with your Tecnopoint system, and how awesome it really can be to make your production just that much better. Thanks so much again for watching this KAIROS 101 tutorial, and I'll see you guys on the next one.